Good evening. Well, I am, of course, the last person in the presence of so many experts to speak about Ayurveda, though I must confess that I'm a great believer and a great fan of Ayurveda system. But I really want to thank all of you here for your presence. It's a reflection of your interest and your faith in this. I'd like to also, in particular, welcome our esteemed panelists and speakers today. That's, of course, Kiran Vyasji, who's just been this year recognized with one of the highest civilian awards in India. He's a Padma Shri, which is incidentally very rarely given to people living abroad. It's mostly for people in India, but it's a reflection of the contribution he has made to the promotion of yoga and Ayurveda here in France, in Europe, a pioneer in that sense. Like to also welcome two great French stalwarts who actually I wish I had known earlier, because I would have utilized their talents and their expertise. And that's, of course, Joyce Guillaume Le Don and Fabien Corrish. Thank you very much for joining us today. Both are prolific writers as well as great practitioners, and they've contributed immensely to the practice of Ayurveda here, but more important, to transforming lives of people through this wonderful science. I'd like to also welcome a very special guest today. That's Ritika Patni, who's flown in from New York for just a day. And Ritika, I got to know in Singapore, where I was posted last. Very dynamic young person who did a lot to promote Ayurveda in Singapore. She's a lawyer, and she's done just a master's in business administration from Columbia University, which and then has devoted her life to Ayurveda, and she has a company called Arth, which in Sanskrit means meaning, and it is actually art of the health. And incidentally, and because it's important for the subject we are discussing today, in the 9th Ayurveda Day, which is innovation, she's also now taken Earth to the Columbia Startup Lab. Now, normally you associate startup labs with digital platforms, not with Ayurveda. But, and somehow to people it might seem like a paradox and obscure, ancient, mysterious science from India in the startup lab of Columbia. But I think it is really a reflection of the growing acceptance of Ayurveda. And so to all of these eminent speakers, let's just give a round of applause today, and we look forward to listening to them. I'd like to thank, of course, our team here, and particularly our public affairs officer, Pujya Priyadarshini, who's been diligently working on organizing Ayurveda Days for the last 3 to 4 years. And I'd like to also welcome Priyadarshini, who's going to be the public affairs officer here, and also a great believer in Ayurveda. So this is the 9th Ayurveda Day, and you might wonder what was the reason for starting Ayurveda Day, just as Prime Minister had launched the International Day of Yoga. It was not to promote the export of culture and commerce from India. It is to contribute to improving the quality of life of people. First of all, in India, which the younger generation had forgotten what it was to lead a more holistic life. And second, internationally. Because as we all know, Ayurveda is, of course, it's a truism, but worth repeating, science of life. So it is more than a system of medicines or treatment. It is a way of life, or state of being. A holistic, sustainable, integrated, balanced approach to life, Of course, there is a treatment and a medicine side to it. There is a curative side to it, but there is also a preventive side to it. There is a way of being, in a sense, physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. And to combine all of this in a way we live, what we eat, how we sleep, what we do, how we interact with the world, how we interact with the outer world and our inner self. So all of this gets combined. And while it might seem esoteric sometimes or something, it is actually rooted in a lot of history, of science, accumulated wisdom based on evidence. And so I think when we speak about quality of life, it is important to bear this in mind, that Ayurveda isn't simply about going to a doctor and asking a person to write a prescription. It is about an approach to life. And I think in the course of this 9 years of the Ayurveda Day, I've often asked myself, is it worth doing it? Has it made an impact? And I think it has. And over the course of these 9 years, just as in the course of 10 years of International Day of Yoga, yoga has become something which people started believing in India and abroad. It is making a difference in Ayurveda. And the reason is that this Ayurveda Day is not just what Ayurveda practitioners speak about. It is also where we get sports people, scientists, artists. We get medical doctors in the sense of allopathic medical doctors, who speak about how they combine their practice with Ayurveda and how it has benefited them in actually improving or making their practice more effective. So all of this is beginning to have an impact. But it is also because I think two other big trends are there. Not just because there's a great campaign through the Ayurveda Day. First, of course, I think that the world, and particularly the younger generation, have become more conscious of wellness and health, of a more sustainable, of a more grounded, of a more, let's say, ethical, in some sense, lifestyles. Something more in tune with nature, more concerned about side effects, the toxic pollutions, cost effects, more interested not just in suppressing symptoms or banishing symptoms, but looking at the root causes that need to be addressed. Affordability, sustainability, the long-term impact, the absence of side effects, all of this is making people aware and search for alternative ways or different ways of healing themselves, improving their quality of life. But it is also what the governments and Ayurveda practitioners are doing. I think in the case of India, of course, we see a complete transformation of the national system, whether it is in education, in Ayurveda clinics, in the best hospitals of the country, side by side with allopathic practices, or it is research, testing, certification, quality, standardization, pharmacopoeia, the use of modern research methods which underpin what we call modern medicine. All of this is now happening, but it is also what the Ayurveda practitioners are doing in terms of protocol, in terms of building trust, confidence, and also appeal. And a lot of this innovation is around this aspect of how do you make this more trusted, more inspiring, more, let's say, appealing. And part of this is the way you package it, the way we present it, the way we are able to see those products not as some bitter pill that you must have, but sometimes as something that you actually relish. And it is this kind of a blend of modern management, modern marketing, modern production, certification, qualification, branding, traceability, all of this, standardization, all of this, what the Ayurveda practitioners and companies are doing is transforming the way we see it. So when we see these products on the shelf, or whether when we go to an Ayurveda practitioner, as we see 3 of them sitting here, we come back recognizing that there is a method, there is a rationale, there is a process as meticulous, as rigorous, as scientific as in the process that we associate with medical science or the modern medicine. And which is why sometimes I am a bit surprised. And I question this notion that we call this complementary, supplementary, alternative, traditional. Everything is traditional. Every doctor takes the Hippocratic Oath. Right? Because that's the old Greek physician 2,500 years ago, to whose oath on his name we take that oath. But it's the evolution since then, to a point where today we can spend billions in researching a cancer drug. But the methodology is not confined to one process. So today we see that change also taking place in traditional medicines, which we call traditional medicines. So I think once we get into this kind of definitions, we start restricting it in our minds and in public policy. And that's one of the big constraints that Ayurveda faces today, is regulation, public policies internationally. And this is not going to simply change because we are able to produce, let's say, 1,000 pages of evidence. We've done that. I've done that in Singapore. I have done that over here. It is also because there's competition. Competition with traditional practice, or what is traditional practices in the West, with the doctors, with the medical companies, and so on and so forth. So I think the best way to deal with it is not through a contest between one form or the other. To accept that all forms are rooted in human wisdom, ingenuity, innovation, knowledge. And they come from diverse sources. And it is possible that we can combine all of this in our lives. And I see this now seamlessly taking place in India. The most advanced doctors with allopathic doctors with 3 PhDs studied in the United States and UK, have all those lovely, combination of letters after their name. Now, without any self-consciousness, also prescribed certain Ayurvedic practices. A post-cardiac incident care will almost always involve certain Ayurvedic practices. So I think just as we are doing in India, and you go to All India Institute of Medical Sciences, you'll see, the most modern equipment from France or the United States coexisting side by side with the most modern Ayurvedic clinic also. So when you look at all of this, I think we need to get beyond definitions to embrace the diverse sources of knowledge, diverse sources of human wealth and treasure that comes from different sources. And this is why I think I have confidence that there is a great future ahead for Ayurveda. Not because it is an Indian export or because it originates in India. You could say that for any Chinese system, you could say that for Unani, you could say that for, acupuncture, for example, has its origins in Korea. We have traditional Mayan medical systems from Latin America. So there is something about the diversity of human knowledge. It is about recognizing that human beings face a challenge in this world of climate crisis, of toxicity, of pollution, of stress, of digital stress, of social tensions, of economic dislocations, of mobility that imposes great demand on us. All of this taken together means that we are all searching for a better quality of life. Not necessarily longer life, but certainly a better quality of life. And a better quality of life is not just our physical strength, but it is also our inner self. And that is, I think, where Ayurveda has focused a lot on. And I'm really pleased to see this very, very impressive and I'd say very complimentary set of speakers today. So without further ado, let's look forward to listening first to Kiran Vyasji, then we'll have Joyce come up, and then of course Fabian, and then we'll round up with young Ritika's presentation. Thank you very much.